With a fee-fi-fo and a hey and a ho and a fiddle and a diddle and a rhyme. The tale you're gonna hear happened such a long time ago. Once upon a time. Once upon a time. This is the story of Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time, there was a poor widower who had 2 children called Hansel and Gretel. His name was Baron von Spendthrift, and he had frittered away his fortune. And although he was reduced to living in a tumble-down cottage, he did his best to look after his beloved son and daughter, Hansel and Gretel. He managed to feed them by working as a humble woodcutter. One morning at breakfast, the Baron announced to Hansel and Gretel that he was going to be married again. When he introduced his fiancée to the children, they found her a little frosty. Her name was Claudine, and although quite attractive, her mouth looked cruel, and she was very unfriendly to Hansel and Gretel. Although Claudine was aware that her husband was impoverished, she relished the idea of being a baroness. Once she had married Baron von Spendthrift, Claudine started to boss her stepchildren around in a way which was both unnecessary and very unpleasant.
Gretel, you're not doing enough work around the house. I want you to scrub all the doorknobs and make them look all shiny and new. And as for you, Hansel, you are a lazy little urchin and you eat far too much. I want you to sweep all the floors and stop being so greedy and stop eating all the food from the larder. Your father doesn't earn enough for you to eat that much,
she snarled. One night, when Hansel and Gretel were playing with their toys in the spare room of the tumble-down cottage, they overheard Claudine saying something very alarming to their beloved father.
I can't stand your children, she said. They are so uncouth. They smell, they're lazy, and we simply can't afford to keep them here with the money you earn.
What are you suggesting, my love?
Inquired a concerned Baron.
It is quite simple,
said Claudine.
I suggest that we take them over the fields and far away until we come to the great forest. And then we'll pretend we are taking them on a picnic. But then we'll leave them to fend for themselves. They'll never be able to find their way home. And then we will be free from those little pests.
The Baron protested, as he loved his children very much.
It would break my heart to lose them, he said.
Put it this way,
said Claudine.
If you don't go along with my plan, I will leave you, and you will remain a lonely old man for the rest of your life.
Although the Baron was kind, he was also weak, and he finally agreed to Claudine's wicked plan. Meanwhile, in the spare room, Gretel was panicking.
Oh, what are we going to do? We are going to be abandoned.
Don't worry,
said Hansel, who had had a private education in England.
As we make our way to the great forest, I shall make a pathway with some white rocks. Then we'll be able to follow the rocks until we find our way home.
The next day, with a smarmy look on her face, Claudine announced that they were all going out on a lovely family picnic.
I have packed some delicious food in the hamper, she said. We have the cheese, bread, sausages, chocolate, and of course the ice cream. It's time we had a lovely family day out so we can all bond together. I can't think of anywhere better to have a picnic than the great forest.
When they got to the forest, Hansel and Gretel opened the hamper to find nothing more than a couple of stale biscuits.
She even lied about the food in the hamper,
cried Gretel.
She is one nasty piece of work,
said Hansel, who then pointed out that their father and stepmother had slipped away without a by-your-leave. However, they were able to find their way back to their father's house due to the trail of rocks Hansel had created whilst on their way through the forest. The Baron was thrilled to see Hansel and Gretel. The Baroness, on the other hand, was very, very angry indeed.
How did you manage to find your way home, you little wretches? She rasped.
Hansel left a trail of rocks,
blurted out Gretel.
You won't be doing that again, you nasty little urchins,
said Claudine. Then she sent them to their bedroom and locked the door.
We must take them back to the great forest tomorrow,
said Claudine to the Baron.
This time, we will make sure that they don't have any rocks so they can make a trail that leads them back here to the house.
Oh, I don't feel really comfortable about this. I love my children,
said Baron von Spendthrift.
If you don't go along with my plans, I am going to leave you, and I am going to make sure that I get the marital home.
Laughed his wicked, scheming wife. The Baron was extremely anxious, and when she saw this, Claudine started to turn on the charm.
Think about it this way, she said. Hansel and Gretel are too pampered here. Out there in the great forest, they can learn about survival. We'll be doing them a favour.
All right, said the Baron. I'll go along with your plan, but I do love my children.
The next day, they took Hansel and Gretel to the forest on the promise that they were going for a barbecue. Claudine built a fire and cooked a couple of mouldy old sausages that she'd found in the pantry of the tumble-down cottage.
Keep your eye on those sausages whilst your father and I go on a romantic stroll, she said to the children.
Within minutes, the Baron and Claudine had left them stranded in the forest.
Don't worry,
said Hansel.
Do you remember the dry biscuits from the hamper last time they left us here?
Yes, of course,
said Gretel.
Well, I've used them to leave a trail so we can find our way home,
said Hansel in his best English accent.
Oh, you're so clever,
said Gretel. Unfortunately, Hansel and Gretel found the trail of biscuit crumbs had gone, for the birds had swooped down and eaten them all.
Oh, dash it, said Hansel. I'm afraid to say we're completely lost in the great forest.
Then Gretel spotted an odd-looking house, and as they walked towards it, they noticed the walls were made of marzipan, and each window was made of sugar.
Oh, look, Hansel, what a bit of luck! I'm starving,
said Gretel. Without hesitation, she started tucking into the marzipan wall.
This is so yummy,
said Gretel.
Yes, so are these sugary windows,
said Hansel. Suddenly, an old hook-nosed woman appeared from behind an oak tree.
Why are you eating my house?
She asked.
Oh, we're terribly sorry,
said Gretel.
We were very hungry and we'd got lost in the great forest. We simply couldn't resist it.
That's okay, said the old woman. If you come inside my house, we can have some of my famous apple pie. It's very filling. I'll also make you a lovely pot of tea.
Once Hansel and Gretel had some apple pie and tea, the old woman offered them a bed for the night. As they lay in bed, Hansel said,
What a kind woman, so unlike Claudine.
I agree,
said Gretel. But little did they know that the old woman was a witch called Way, who simply loved eating children. In the morning at breakfast, she produced a magic wand, and she waved it and said,
Rosemary, parsley, pancetta and sage. Have this boy locked in a rusty old cage.
And in a flash of yellow smoke, Hansel found himself trapped in a rusty old cage.
Oh no! I'm trapped!
For the next few weeks, she bullied Gretel into helping her force-feed Hansel massive portions of her sickly apple pie.
Soon your brother will be fat enough to gobble up. I think I'll roast him with parsnips. Yum, yum, yum.
One morning, Which Way took one look at Hansel and decided he was fat enough to be roasted in the oven with the parsnips she had freshly prepared from her garden. She turned on the oven and said,
Once this oven's hot enough, in he goes. I'm going to slow cook him. Gas mark 4. I love it when children fall off the bone.
But when the witch opened up the oven to check it was hot enough, a quick-thinking Gretel pushed her in and slammed the door.
Help!
Yelled Which Way.
Let me out! No way, said Hansel, shouting from the cage. You're going to be slow cooked now, you wicked old witch.
Then Gretel picked up the witch's magic wand along with a spell book, and after studying the spells, Gretel was able to wave the magic wand and say,
By the eye of a troll and the nose of a gnome, may this magical spell take us safely back home.
And sure enough, there was a huge puff of red and green smoke. And once the smoke had disappeared, Hansel and Gretel found themselves safely back in their father's tumble-down cottage.
What are you doing back here?
Said Claudine. But their father was so thrilled to see them that he wept tears of joy.
That's it,
said Claudine.
I'm going to drag you both by the hair and take you back to the great forest.
No, you're not,
said Gretel, and she waved her magic wand once more, saying,
By the eye of a cat and the tail of a deer, it's time to make wicked Claudine disappear.
And sure enough, Claudine disappeared into thin air.
Good riddance to her,
said Baron von Spendthrift.
I'm so delighted that you are safe.
I'm so sorry I was so weak.
I forgive you, Daddykins,
said Hansel.
And so do I.
Said Gretel.
And now I have another little surprise.
She waved the magic wand and exclaimed,
If I may be so decidedly bold, produce for my father a huge pot of gold.
And sure enough, in a puff of crimson smoke, a massive pot of gold coins appeared.
Thank you so much, children,
said the Baron.
We'll never have to struggle again.
From that day on, Baron von Spendthrift and his children, Hansel and Gretel, lived happily ever after in a beautiful castle on a hill that overlooked the great forest.